Hey everybody. Today is March 30th, and today's card of the day is Ancestral Knowledge. This week we're going over a bunch of different cards that have common rules mistakes or common rules questions on the Facebook group and Discord group and Reddit group. I'm hoping to address some of these cards that are common questions for new players, and even experienced players like myself constantly finds myself questioning how this effect works or how a certain combo works. So, let's get more knowledgeable about Ancestral Knowledge and go over this amazing event from Black Panther's Hero Kit. So Ancestral Knowledge is a one-cost event from Black Panther's Hero Kit. It's from the core set, so it's one of the most commonly talked about and questioned cards in Marvel Champions history, at least in my experience. It's got an alter ego action for one cost, or two true costs, but one printed cost. And it says choose up to 3 different cards in your discard pile and shuffle them into your deck. So first, it's really cool. You get to choose those 3 cards. So you can take the best 3 cards from your discard pile, put them back into your deck. The second thing that is important to highlight is it says 3 different cards, and that's going to be really important as we discuss this. So those cards have to have different names. You can't just shuffle in 3 copies of Wakanda Forever. You can't just shuffle in 3 copies of reprinted cards that are in different expansions because they have a different ID in the bottom corner. They have to be differently named cards. Even though it doesn't say that, that is the ruling that we have gotten as far as I understand it. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments so I can correct this video. I find this card to be extremely useful just before you deck out. So you can shuffle a bunch of things into like a 1 to 2 card deck. You end up drawing all those things the next turn, and you can guarantee your combo in your hand because you can make it so you're going to draw all 3 of those pieces. And that's a really cool way to use Ancestral Knowledge. Don't forget, it is an alter ego action, so you cannot do this when you are Black Panther. You're going to have to flip down to T'Challa, but luckily, with Golden City, you'll be able to draw even more cards and hopefully get a better chance of getting, all these combo cards placed together. So, some of the key combos, just about everything in Black Panther's Hero Kit other than Golden City is a good card to shuffle back into your deck. And that's not that Golden City is a bad card. If Golden City is in your discard pile for some reason, by all means, shuffle that back into your deck because it's one of the most amazing supports in the game. But a lot of times early in the game, I draw too many Black Panther upgrades and I can't use them all, so I've got to spend one as a resource. And that stinks to wait for your whole second deck pass to get that 4th upgrade out. Well, you can shuffle it back into your deck, and you can shuffle it back in with the Vibranium, so you're putting the resource in to know that you can pay for it. And then you've got to pick a 3rd differently named card, so maybe you pick a Wakanda Forever and have a really good turn while you're playing that upgrade. Sounds great. And just a reminder, again, you cannot shuffle in 2 copies of Vibranium or 2 copies of Wakanda Forever. They have to be 3 differently named cards. And this is a mistake that I made probably for the first 3 months of the game before I figured out what that actually meant, or before the entire community figured that out. So, one of my other favorite cards from Black Panther's Hero Kit to shuffle in is Shuri. And that's because if you shuffle Shuri back into your deck just before you're about to deck out, when you reshuffle that deck, whatever upgrades in your deck are free reign to Shuri. She can just bring out whichever one you need depending on what treachery cards or minions or side schemes come out. So that can be a really powerful way to use Shuri, who's one of those underrated signature allies. So what are some non-Black Panther cards that are good to shuffle in? Just about anything with uses. I'm looking at energy barriers, I'm looking at tac teams. I'm not really looking at surveillance team because that card kind of stinks. But these cards with uses are automatically eventually going to enter your discard pile. And they're usually good cards. That's why they enter your discard pile and don't just have a constant effect forever, because that'd be too powerful. So the more often you can get energy barriers in, the better. The cool thing with energy barrier, again, anything that's a 2-cost upgrade or support is especially good because you can shuffle it back in with a Vibranium that you're going to be guaranteed to have somewhere in your deck. So it can be a really powerful way to boost your final turn before you shuffle your deck, which is usually when you need a big boost before you're going to get that double encounter card. Other cards that discard themselves, like Beat Cop. I mean, I don't really like to use Beat Cop for their action until that final round to bust a guard minion, but sometimes you've got a guard minion early, or, a MODOK that you need to get to low health, or maybe even a Killmonger from your Nemesis kit. With all those Vibraniums, Black Panther can afford to play Beat Cop more than once per deck pass if he needs to, so it can be a great way to use Beat Cop, but then not have to depend on reshuffling and then top decking it and then being able to afford it. I really like to shuffle Mean Swing back into my deck, and this is actually a combo I like to do a lot. When I'm just about to deck out, I'll shuffle in Mean Swing, Skilled Strike, and Wakanda Forever. So if I've got all 4 of my Black Panther upgrades out there, I can do that Wakanda Forever for 6, so I'm at 2 true costs so far to do 6 damage and 1 threat removal. Then I can attack for a base of 2, and I can add 3 from Mean Swing and Skilled Strike. So that's going to be 7 more on top of that 6. That's 13 damage and 1 threat removal for a true cost of 4, or like a printed cost across these 3 cards of just 1. That's bonkers, right? And the cool thing with Black Panther is 2 of those upgrades are weapons. So Energy Daggers and Panther Claws. This isn't a Mean Swing video, but almost every video with Black Panther becomes a Mean Swing video because having those automatic weapons that you can get on your setup makes Mean Swing super, super consistent. Anyway, Mean Swing, great card to shuffle back in. Obviously, Allies, most busted, awesome, amazing, super fun cards in the game, especially cheap allies. So I'm looking at Quake, I'm looking at Spider-Girl. Basically anything with a after this character enters play effect, or after this character is played from hand effect, is really good to shuffle back in your deck. So Nick Fury is going to end up in your discard pile. Really cool way to kickstart that turn when you're going to get the double encounter card by playing Nick and drawing a bunch of cards and prepping your board. Same thing with Mockingbird. I really like this. So Mockingbird, right, you play her, she stuns the villain, she thwarts for 1. Next turn she thwarts for 1 and she blocks for you. So she negated 2 attacks with her 3 life. You can now shuffle her back into your deck, and she can negate 4 attacks in a single deck pass. I mean, if we're negating 4 attacks and drawing 5 to 6 cards a turn, if our deck is somewhat thinned, that might be your entire deck pass without you actually having to soak an attack as Black Panther, because Mockingbird just handled all of it. And then finally, things like Avengers Mansion. I think that's a good card to shuffle back in, especially when you draw it early and you're trying to get those Black Panther upgrades out. It's great to get that mansion early, but sometimes you just can't afford it. And you hate when you put it in your discard pile, especially if you're only bringing 1. You know it's going to sit there forever and ever and ever and just stare at you with its mental resource. Well, instead, you can shuffle it back in with a strength and with a vibranium, and now you've put 4 resources in with Avengers Mansion, and if it's right before you deck out, you're going to draw them all and know you can afford it, which is super fun. Alright, so some rules goofs. We've already talked about this. I think I have drilled this home. These 3 cards that you shuffle back in have to be differently named. So no 2 copies of the same card, no 2 vibraniums, no shuffling all your Avengers Mansions back in or anything like that. Treat each card as if it's unique, and they need to be shuffled in without a multiple copy sort of thing going on. You can shuffle the card in that you used to pay, and why I think this is really cool is, so first there's some snippets from the RRG down here. I think this is how this works. People can correct me if I'm wrong, but under the event entry in the current RRG, it says, an event is a player card type that is generally played for an instantaneous effect. And then it goes on to tell you the order and resolution of those effects. So they're not exactly instantaneous. Each time a player plays an event card, its costs are paid, its effects resolve, and the card is placed in its owner's discard pile after those effects are resolved or are canceled. So my understanding from the order of that is you choose to play a card based on play/put into play. You place that event card on the table. You then pay the costs of that card. So in this case, it's paying the 1 resource to play Ancestral Knowledge. You then resolve its effects. So the card you just used to pay the costs can get shuffled back into your deck. Then the Ancestral Knowledge enters your discard pile. So because of that ordering, you can use the card that you pay for Ancestral Knowledge to shuffle back in, but you can't shuffle Ancestral Knowledge itself back in. It doesn't enter the discard pile before you resolve its effects. But this can be really cool, right? Like the example I just mentioned of Vibranium, Strength, and Avengers Mansion. You can shuffle all 3 of those back in your deck to keep your deck like really small and guarantee you're going to draw that combo together. So you can set these combos up, and you can even use one of the combo pieces that's currently sitting in your hand to get it back into your deck where you might want it. So that was our knowledge-inducing video of Ancestral Knowledge. I hope we all learned a little bit. I learned a little bit about going on and on and on, too much about Mean Swing, and maybe I'll have to resolve that problem in the future. But for today, I hope we have less rules questions and less rules confusion over the card Ancestral Knowledge, And I hope we've all learned some really cool ways you can use this awesome signature one-of card in Black Panther's Hero Kit. So let me know how you use Ancestral Knowledge. What are your favorite cards to shuffle back in? What aspects do you think really work to get that recursion maximized out of Ancestral Knowledge? And tell me all about it in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in.